Good morning, everybody. I don't know where to look. I'm trying to look over here because my brain is, I'm oriented towards this way. Here, let me do this. This maybe helps me look crazy, less crazy anyway. Okay, so I don't really have much to say today, except for I've been meaning to make this video about this one verse that I found that I keep finding these like doozy verses that after number three, I'm like, I think God is trying to talk to me. Like, not about my own personal situation or anything, but it's just like, He knows that I am sort of, I've got like this excavation going on and I'm trying to find stuff, and He's pointing these things out to me. And I think this is kind of the first time it's happened, like this blatantly, where it's like, it's like He's butting into the conversation and has some things that He wants me to find. It's not exactly tailored to what I'm looking for, because a lot of times he'll find me something that's like, yes, this is what I'm looking for. But it's like he keeps, I'm on the path, I'm looking for something in particular to answer my question. And he's finding these verses that are like, they're pinpointed, but it just seems very much like him talking. And I don't know. It kind of seems like there's a battle going on with this Once Saved, Always Saved on YouTube right now. I don't know if it's just like the nature of the time, because it's like time is short and people need to know exactly what to do and why. And so it's really just getting down to the wire with like um, people understanding these concepts. And I'm just finding tons of evidence against this Once Saved, Always Saved. Like, I already knew that there was like, and it's not so much that it's evidence against, it's like people need to not be so naive about this idea and think that it's just a this can just be considered a theological debate. It's kind of like, is abortion really killing kids, or is it something else? It's like, it's killing children. It's not a debate. It's like, well, let's table that conversation. It's like, no, we're not going to table that. To each his own. It's like, no, no, we're going to get this resolved and stop saying wrong things, because this is going to hurt people. So while I was looking up the stuff for the previous videos that I had made, I came across this verse from Jude chapter 1, verse 5. This verse has just been reverberating in my brain for the last couple of days. It says, though you already know all this, I want to remind you that the Lord at one time delivered his people out of Egypt, but later destroyed those who do not believe. And I'm just like looking at the law, like thinking about this verse, the implications of this verse, the way that I'm looking at the entire Bible and the context of everything, because what Jude is reminding me is, because it's true, you know it, but you're not, if no one, people keep zipping you here and there to focus on this and that. It's like, listen, yeah, every Israelite made it out. Everybody that was part of the family made it out. Every person that Moses was intended on, and we're talking powerful signs and wonders from God to get every last Israelite out of Egypt. Then he took them to the desert, and some more stuff started to happen. And God was ready. First of all, it got so bad that God was like, listen, Moses, let me just start over with you. How do you feel about that? That's how bad it got. He was ready to wipe every last one of them peoples out. And it's not that the plague thing, the stuff in Egypt was like hard for God, or he was like fought this like intense battle or anything, but still, it's one of the most, if not the most overt um, displays of God's power that's in the Bible. And it's not like it was all for naught. He did it to free every single one of the people. And they were all entitled to that freedom. What gave them the entitlement? The Passover lamb that they put on the doorposts, because they would have died. Like, they were already, yes, they were already guaranteed freedom by being Israelites, but then they had to be obedient to that thing, because God was going to do something that required them to, they needed to be exempt from what God was going to do. So God was like, listen, you need to follow this instruction, then don't go outside. It's like, it's like that, whatever scene in the movie where it's like, don't come out of this room no matter what you hear. So he did that, but and then when you think of, okay, Jesus is the Passover, is the Passover lamb, is the blood being sprinkled, so who is that for? Oh, it's for everyone. It's for everyone. But then after you accept it, after if we're going to still keep the Israelites as a metaphor for, or a foreshadowing of being freed from slavery, now you're going out into the wilderness with God. Now you're with God. And it's kind of funny, like, they kind of had a point where they were like, listen, we could have suffered in Egypt. What type of suffering would you like? Would you like the type of suffering that comes from a free person trusting God, starting from absolutely zero, and having to, it's not like it's not like it's completely quiet out there. You got a pillar of fire, you got a cloud in the morning, a pillar of fire at night. God is there. It's not like you're like, did we hallucinate that whole thing? Or did did we do too much? No, God is there. But you're still like, listen, I could be eating beef and broccoli right now if it wasn't for God trying to upend our whole lives and give us some type of destiny that we didn't even ask for. Some of the people were like, I kind of didn't ask for it. Like, yeah, the slavery was rough, but I really didn't ask for this. This isn't my jam either. And, it's valid. It's valid. There's some people that it's just not for them. Or, they all agreed, though, and they all agreed to follow the law, and then it just, immediately after, it was just like, whatever, that some neighboring group sends in all the women, and it's all over. So the way that he says, like, he delivered them out of Egypt, but later destroyed those who did not believe, meaning they were further sifted after that. So that tells you right there that once saved, always saved can't possibly be, that's not even God's pattern. He saves everyone, and then you are further sifted even more after that. So, and it's really strange, because it's kind of like, I don't even know who this once saved, always saved thing is for, as in terms of like, who needs to hear this message. I'm assuming there's got to be a lot of people, like I was assuming, like I said before, that just a lot of people were afraid that they were going to do one major slip up and then God was going to abandon them. And I understand that you need to be like, okay, listen, no matter what you do. But at the same time, like, do you not know any more scripture? Do you not know you need to read more Bible? Because that sounds like a Bible deficit. It's like it's like getting scurvy. It's like, bro, you need some vitamin C. Like, why do you have scurvy? Like, why are you, oh my gosh, am I going to lose my salvation? It's like, we have oranges. Like, you're not a pirate. Why are you on the inside missing this security. Like, this isn't just from not understanding this one concept. You haven't studied any of the other ones. Like, you need some help. Like, you need to get the whole full thing, because then you would know that that's not possible if this is possible over here. So that solves that group of people, but that's literally the only group of people. And that's a small. I mean, how many people run around here with scurvy? It's a very specialized problem. So it doesn't need to be as prominent as it is for people to be, for us to have to go through and unhook this from like the masses of people's minds. Like, it says very clearly that that is not the case, that you cannot just get saved once. Listen, this is what I just read on the way to reading this scripture, like just now. Okay. So, it has these little subheadings in the Bible for people who, usually over each chapter, but whatever the new story is, there's a little subheading. Here is the subheading of Jude: the sin and doom of ungodly people. Well, that sounds like that's exactly what we need to talk about. Let's see what he's talking about. He says, I'll just skip down to the verse before. It says, for certain individuals whose condemnation was written about long ago have secretly slipped in among you. They are ungodly people who pervert the grace of our God into a license for immorality and deny Jesus Christ, our only sovereign and Lord. Okay, so apparently this is a very ancient old thing that we're dealing with. That's number one. Number two, they've secretly slipped in. I don't know how he knows that, but you might as well just say that that's true. I don't think anybody, there's maybe a couple, three people intentionally doing it. Everyone else is just probably mimicking, parroting, um, just repeating what they hear, and maybe there's a couple, three people on that level as well. But if you ask me, the danger still remains telling people that once they receive their salvation, there's nothing else to worry about, and then having those people be rudely awakened on Judgment Day because their conscience has been seared, and they go, "That's weird. I can't feel things like I used to. Is that okay? Oh, I should be fine. I'm once saved, always saved. You know what they say." Like, that is way more dangerous to me than, there's a couple people that are saying, like, it's very, very bad to tell other believers that they could lose their salvation. And not just like it's a downer, it's like you're doing something. They're focusing on the overall health of the body. And I tell you what, I don't know what part of the body I am, but it ain't that part, because I have never been concerned with that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with me. I think all of the parts of the body need to be working together, and everybody needs to show respect to everybody. As far as I can tell, the people that feel like they need to tell folks, no, you can lose your salvation and you better watch yourself. Those people are still, I mean, even though we don't like the once saved, always saved, we don't like the title, and we'll be like, no, that's not a thing. Doesn't mean we don't respect those people. I mean, maybe I should speak for myself. Doesn't mean I don't respect the people that are sort of trying to minister to those people who might be a little more feeble or a little more shaky in their faith and are wondering, but at the same time, you can't do their relationship for them. If they are coming to you about, they're scared about what their boss is going to do. It's like, bro, have you tried talking to the boss? Do you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't get to the point where we could just one wrong word from another church member could just crumble you down. It's like, we all work at the same place. Like, we all have the same access. Um, and I honestly, like, I just really have a very low tolerance for people just trying to uh, sort of shame the church for what a bad job they're doing with their whatever. Like I just heard a video the other day, and it was this lady that was like, "Oh yeah, I know a lady, and she was a witch or whatever, but then she had a vision of Jesus, and then she tried to go to a church, and she told the church like her whatever, and they were like, no, you can't, no." And they rejected her, so now she's new age where they accept her. It's like, and the premise was like, oh, the church missed their opportunity to evangelize. It's like, listen, like I want you to visualize the opposite, because my brain is thinking of all of these crazy people just giving carte blanche to go into these churches because they had a vision of Jesus. Like, and we just are supposed to go and just be accepting. It's like, I understand that we sometimes get it wrong, and sometimes we judge people, and sometimes, hey, maybe sometimes that homeless person's not going to use that money for drugs, and you're just a mean person. I get it. We're all going to get judged on these little tiny things where it's like, no, that was me that you refused to help. That was me that you didn't go and do. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But if we're allowed to defend ourselves, I will listen to the criticism, but I also know that God is going to understand where I was coming from with it. And it wasn't just an excuse for me to not come up off my money. Maybe it was for some people, but for me, I'm in a constant state of, I guess because I too, the history of my life of manipulative people coming around me is just like, to me, like that's the only type of people there are in the world. Like if you were to ask me, like that's all I've ever seen is manipulative people, and then like a couple of not people who, and those people like aren't interested in what I have to say. Like, so like, and I'm not saying like I fell prey, but it's like, sometimes like you get, after a while you learn things after things happen to you, but it's just like, I don't know that like, it's just certain things that even with people coming into church and shaming you for doing that is in itself a manipulative thing. And like if you've grown up in church, you've been in church for 10, 20 years, you have heard so many people get up on that pulpit and tell you a story like that, and the intention is to get you to like rethink your whatever, and start to be more open about whatever. And guess you know what happens when you do that? You start entertaining conversations way longer than you're supposed to, and that you would have cut off earlier, and you're like, yeah, I knew I should have cut this off earlier. This is a hot mess. Like, there's the instances, I won't say they're rare, but I just know like it takes all types. And no, yeah, you shouldn't have a whole church full of people that's like, get out, that's not of God, get out. You should have somebody in the church that's like, let's hear this person out. And your church shouldn't all be like, welcome, we welcome all types, welcome. You shouldn't have all that either. But guess what? We're all human. I haven't seen a well-running machine, not even just in church, like just in general. Most people flock together in one big group, and you don't see a lot of diversity of thought. So this is going to happen time and again. And I'm somebody who's very open. I've seen, a lot of churches are shutting people down because they're not wearing the right designers or whatever. Like it just gets really, it's like, oh well, we don't, you're talking, you're quoting the Old Testament too much, so you don't gel with the group. I mean, this is the surface stuff we're talking about. So yeah, of course, the witch who saw Jesus in a vision, and it's not like Jesus said, hey, go to this church. Jesus was just appeared, and she was like, how is he so powerful? What does he care about me? And so she went to a church, and yeah, no, they're not, they don't have the pulse of the of the youth. Okay, they have their ear to the ground on the latest what the witches are doing. Yeah, no, they don't. They totally kicked her out. That absolutely. But my thing is like, okay, you know that the spirit realm is real. Half of the church don't even aren't, because we got shamed for doing anything that wasn't logical, and so that was the thing for many many decades, and so now we have this huge stigma and we can't do anything out of turn, we can't do anything weird, so our kids love the Ouija board because we don't do anything weird in our church. So that's another thing that happens. I mean, the devil is busy. So why didn't you just go and literally just talk to Jesus face to face? Because that's literally the whole point of us even going to the church and doing all of this stuff and being around other people, is so you can eventually feel comfortable to say, do, progress in a healthy environment. Like, that's the whole point of church. Church is not the end goal. So if you already got the main line, Jesus is just coming and talking to you, why don't you just talk to him? But you went to the new age. Like, not everything is because you met a grumpy person or the Christian said the wrong thing to you. Like, the way that we get so much credit when it's time to get blamed for something, but like we can't get a single law passed. Like, which is it? Are we just nothing? Like, we're trying to get the world to look how we want it to look, but somehow we're able to just turn away sorcerers and all types of people and make them feel sad and make them feel like they are powerless and unable to reach God because we are the gatekeepers. What? Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, it's too many narratives being thrown at stuff. But it's just like, listen, I don't care how easily suicidal you get over stuff. You can't just get saved and just, that's it. You can't just say the words. God saved all the Israelites. Like, it wasn't even about faith. He did it like physically, it physically happened. And then they went to the desert and half of them fell in a crevice in the earth. And God's personality is always like, oh, Jesus, now it's New Testament. Okay, well, read your Old Testament some more. They're the exact same person. If you've seen me, you've seen the Father. It's just that what Jesus did was extremely powerful, and it can do a lot for a long time, way more than the tabernacle and the law, which was in itself a great thing that we kind of take for granted, because it's like talking about the wagon powered by horses versus the car, but they're both great technologies designed to do the same thing. So yeah, I'm sure there's some things that you can't imagine because you never had to deal with living things that pulled you around. And so you're like, I don't get all that. I understand electricity, engine, car, gas, all of that. I don't get this whole like taking care of animals and having to kill them, and that sounds inhumane. It's like, okay, well, the point is, like, some of y'all need, some of this is just simply reading comprehension. I was talking to my husband about this the other day. It's like he was doing something in the Bible and he was just like doing something, he was chopping it up, and I was like, yo, this is just a reading comprehension problem. You know how you got tested? Your state usually would test you, and then you would have like entry level exams, and you would read a whole passage, and then they would be like, if you're doing SAT or whatever, they're designed for you to see how focused you can get that stuff, if you're really paying attention. And a lot of people, I mean, does anybody ever get to the end of that before the time is up? Because you keep going back to the passage to find out so it's like, some of y'all just need basic reading comprehension skills, because if you don't got them, you're going to draw weird conclusions with this. Like, and it's not like, oh, you got to be smart. It's just like, I'm gifted in it. Like, I'm a writer. I've had it since I was a youth, where, I even have literally like old test scores that I kept from like all my high reading content. It's just something that comes naturally to me. So, um, it's like the conclusion drawing sometimes is just real dubious. It's like the verb says keep on, like that. I think that was literally what we were talking about was Hebrews. I think it was Hebrews 10:26. And I was like telling him, I was like, listen, do you see how much information is in this verb? Where's the confusion? He was just like, I don't know, like if this man, like it says, first of all, the word deliberately, it says, let me just read the whole thing to you. So it says, if we deliberately keep on sinning after we have received the knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sins is left, but only a fearful expectation of judgment and of raging fire that will consume the enemies of God. Okay, that sounds pretty serious. So you need to know, like, okay, well, do I fall in that category? Like, I had a couple beers last week. It's like, listen, do you understand the amount of work that this verb is doing? You should have, there's zero, okay, if we deliberately keep on sinning, thank God for that one word. If it just said, if we keep on sinning, you're allowed to be confused. If it said, if we deliberately sin, you would be allowed to be confused. If we deliberately keep on sinning, and also if you study languages, whatever verb tenses, the conjugation, they're having to use three words probably for a single verb because English is just itself English go English. And so we don't have a verb that signifies the continual sinning thing. So we have to put words on it. But it's like, so there's sin. If you sinned once in the past, if you have sinned, meaning it's past, it didn't just happen, it's whatever, then it's like, will sin, like, you know what I mean? So it's like, keep on sinning is like a continual, you stay sinning. Like black people got it because we had to put one in there because there wasn't one in English. If you stay sinning, you deliberately stay sinning, then there is no more sacrifice left for you. That's what it's saying. That's what we need. We need a black translation. It says, if you deliberately stay sinning after you've received knowledge of the truth, no sacrifice for sin is left. And then Jude said, let me just remind you, though I know you already know, let me remind you that the Lord at one time delivered his people out of Egypt, but later destroyed those who did not believe. So every Israelite was entitled to the deliverance. Yes. Once delivered, always delivered. And then they went to the desert, and who didn't believe, those who didn't believe, Moses said, you be over here or you be over there. And let God decide. And and they got swallowed up by the ground. Go read your Old Testament, y'all. And then they sinned, and one person sinned and a plague broke out. Then they had to go find the dude, and then they were like, oh, they were praying. What do we do? And then your boy, who's my personal favorite, I feel like he's my, they're like, who are you in the Bible? It's like, oh, I'm Esther. No, I'm that dude that brought the javelin and just chucked that javelin between the two people who was committing adultery in the camp, and then the plague lifted like immediately. It's like, we know who it is. Just deal with that. You're welcome. You're welcome. It wasn't Joshua. It wasn't Moses. It was, I think his name was Phineas or something. He didn't go on to become the whatever. He just was there and was really pissed off seeing these two people walk through the camp after they had dealt with the plague, and they're like, everybody's just like, and here they come, just like they just strolled into the meeting. Anyways, so And then before that, he's like, that was his support. That was his support example for the topic at hand, which was certain individuals whose condemnation was written about. Oh, and there's a little footnote there. Let's see what he's talking about. The certain individuals whose condemnation was written about long ago have secretly slipped in among you. Okay, let's see. C. Oh, okay. I thought it was going to give me another scripture. I was like, that'd be helpful. It just says, or individuals who are marked out for condemnation. Whoopsie. That's where the predetermination people get kind of confused. So it says they are ungodly people who, what they do, what do? They pervert the grace into a license for immorality and deny Jesus Christ, our only sovereign Lord. So everybody knows what this leads to. I know that you are very, like, some of y'all are just innocent in your whatevers, and you just want to know that you're going to be okay. That you're going to be okay before God. But everybody knows that if you go around telling people once saved, always saved, that is going to lead, that's going to pervert the grace for the one sliver of you who just want to make sure that you're okay. For the rest of us, we know where it leads. We cannot go around telling people that once they're saved, they're always going to be saved. Aside from it not being true, it's just going to cause people to have a license to use the grace, because let's be honest, it's just sitting there. It's sitting right there. You accept Christ. He forgives you all your sins. Your slate is clean. And it can continue to be clean. He can forgive you. He tells you to forgive 70 times 7. So he should do the same thing, right? It's sitting right there. The temptation to just abuse the knowledge of salvation. It's sitting right there. Hardly anyone ever really like overtly goes near it, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about either in here, way in the back, or in your heart, going, oh man, I got a continual renewal. I got a rejuvenation machine in my heart. I can do this 12 times. You're the thing is, it's not gonna, like, God is waiting until the rapture, but before it got to rapture time, it wasn't until you died. Your whole life was going to be, because you might change your ways any point between now and death. So he's got to wait till you get to the end to evaluate you. So you're not going to know really until, the way that you can know when you're up there. So you go on and you do that, and you see, like, how that works. Like, let us know how it works out. Like, that is a huge gamble. So yeah, no, you can't. It seems like you can. It seems like Jesus is one of those people that are like, hey, community library, just bring back the book whenever you're finished with it. It's just on an honor system. And in a way, yes, that is what he's doing. But and then it's like, hey, it's not fair that you came and doxed me because I didn't turn in your honor system book. That's not fair. You said it was on the honor system. It's like, he can do what he wants. Oh, well, this is entrapment. Like, what? You're a terrible person. Yeah, he trapped the terrible people. And now they're not going to be able to get out anymore. Yeah, it's entrapment. Yes. Like, this isn't about, like, that this whole, like, guilty until proven, or innocent until proven guilty and all this stuff. Those are all things in place that we need here for our justice system, because of the way that we are, which is our flawed human beings. Like, God, you know what's funny though? God probably kind of already knows. I think this is really more for people, for the unlikely people to have a chance. You know, the prostitutes and these unlikely people who would never otherwise get a chance to become people of God. And we're all waiting for them to get in. And we're waiting for, the super religious people to get tired and crap out at the end before the end is over. That's what, it's a race, running the race. It doesn't belong to that person or this person, but the one who endures to the end. And then also there's going to be some people that come, that come in at the end, that get in, that slip in at the very end, and they're going to get the exact same reward as you. Are you mad about it or happy? So yeah, the opportunity is there for you to abuse the grace of God and just keep sinning and keep doing whatever. And one day you might wake up. One day God might talk to you, whatever. But we're going to tell you right now. We're telling you right now, it doesn't. It's not going to work that way. And if you think it's going to work that way, you're going to be in for a rude awakening. And you can't rely. You can't just come back with just because God decided to forgive you. Because guess what? You know what the Bible says about him, about his mercy policy. His mercy policy is, I'll show mercy on whoever I want to. That's the policy. So that's what we're that's if he wants to show you mercy, he can. That doesn't mean that we are out of line for warning you about what you're doing, or that he doesn't want us to. That's not what that means. He might end up showing you mercy at the end, but that's fantastic. That's great. That's great. All of that warning was for nothing. You were fine that whole time. Oh, but you were so mean about it, and you gave me anxiety that I didn't need to have. Okay, well, we're sorry about that, but we were just worried about you being in hell forever. What about the people who just let their friends and family who just affirmed them and everything, and those people went straight to the hell place? Those people are going to get a different conversation. So, and it all depends on your motivation. That's what's great about this place, too. It's like it all depends on your motivation. And a lot of this grace, a lot of this is just so that you can be free to be who you are with God. It's like if you one day, people, everybody is afraid, upset, to get upset with God and have blowout conversations with Him. I mean, it's kind of hard, actually. And God knows that you've got all of those rumbly, grumbly, bitter things against Him. You might not even know. But if you never even start having this, you don't even have any type of conversation with Him at all, you'll never know. But if one day it just comes out in a big heap, the grace is so that while you're cussing God up and down, He can just look straight at you and just still love you. And then you can be like, what was that about? And He can be like, yeah, you had hate in your heart. You didn't know that? You got hate from this thing that happened to you. And He knows the whole thing. So the grace is to aid in the process of you and God, not for you to just continue drinking margaritas in front of the television because you're not going out anywhere, you're not driving, so you're an okay Christian. It's like, no, it's for you and God to go through the couples therapy during life and have it out without you burning up, without you having it out, because you're still in your flawed state and you're just a mess and you have no idea what's going on. So it's a temporary thing. I don't know that we're going to is there grace in heaven? Okay, but that's not one of the fruits of the Spirit, if you have noticed. Graciousness. So we're probably, we might not need it there. I mean, is God going to be gracious still? Probably. But we're all going to be in a perfect state. So what do we need the grace for? So it's just for here. Until this age is over completely. All right. I feel like I said what I need to say. And I feel like people are still going to be confused after today because people just are like, I still don't get it. I mean, You want to be in the dark, then fine. I can't really help you, but I know when I saw that Jude 1:5, I was like, okay, let's put the nails in the coffin, put the stake in the heart of this thing, because y'all are not even reading this Bible. If because it's not like I never read it before. I know that I had. That's why I was like, this sounds hinky. It doesn't sound like the word, but you don't necessarily know where to go for the references that you're looking for. But now we can add Jude 1:5 to it. We got Hebrews 10:26, and whatever the other one was that blew my mind that I can't remember. Oh, 1 Peter 4. Was it 1 Peter 4, the very first verse? Probably one or two or one of those. So that is your guide to how to know if you are doing your faith right with God, and how to know that you're okay and not going to hell. So there's your handy dandy references and your commentary. I'm done. So hopefully, we'll see.